Okay, hi, you beautiful New Zealanders. We're on to part 3 of the response to the 440 church leaders. And if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, you need to see them because we're just going to go straight into where we left off with the last one, which was part 2. So we've been going through one of the Psalms, Psalm 15, and the conclusion was the 440 church leaders used Psalm 15 verse 4, who keeps an oath when it hurts and does not change his mind, to convey the idea to MPs that they should stop David Seymour's bill because his bill reneges on the treaty as it was understood in 1840. Is this true? No, it's not true. So how so? Well, the only way to answer this is to look at the treaty. The treaty has 5 parts. The treaty has a preamble. The preamble of the treaty made it clear that if Maori ceded sovereignty, Britain would set up a government here to govern all the people of New Zealand, not just the British settlers, which is what Maori activists claim. To say that they were only going to govern British settlers is completely ridiculous. The British would never have done that. Article 1 of the treaty made it clear that Maori ceded sovereignty completely and forever to the British. This meant that all the resources of this country would be managed by the government except the resources which were privately owned. Article 2, Sentence 1 of the treaty guaranteed Maori the possession of their land, dwellings and property. The first thing Britain did was survey the land each tribe said they owned. Boundaries were established and titles issued, if you like, the 1 centimetre squares that we've talked about earlier. The British only guaranteed Maori the land, dwellings and property. Today we might say land, house and contents that they owned at the time. That's in 1840. Maori went on to sell 92% of their land. Proof is here. Today we never hear about this. I wonder why. It's a crucial piece of information which is, if advertised and known, would derail the gravy train. The Maori activists would be left with no case to argue. If you sold the land, you can't have it back. That's the end of the story. Well, we never hear about that. However, Maori activists today have fraudulently twisted the facts that they say that the British guaranteed Maori all the land and all the resources of New Zealand forever. Article 2, Sentence 2, because there's 2 sentences in Article 2, also establishes an important land protocol. Only the British government could purchase land from Maori. That was the deal. Article 3 granted Maori British citizenship. This made Maori equal with all the other British citizens, something highly prized by Maori in 1840. Maori activists today try to tell us that Maori received all the rights and privileges of British citizenship but did not become British citizens. This is absolutely nonsense. Again, the things they say. It's impossible to have all the rights and privileges of being a British citizen without actually becoming a British citizen. See? The affirmation, the final part of the treaty, the chiefs had to affirm that they understood what they were signing and agreed to the preamble and the 3 articles. And this is what they did. That's what the affirmation, read it for yourself. So, what is the point of summarizing the treaty in this way? I want to show you that David Seymour's 3 principles summarize the treaty precisely and accurately. Here they are again. The New Zealand government has the right to govern all New Zealanders. That's a nice summary of Article 1 and the preamble of the treaty. Then his second principle says, before it was amended that is, the New Zealand government will honour all the New Zealanders and the chieftainship of their land and property. That's a perfect summary of Article 2 of the treaty. And number 3, David's third principle, all New Zealanders are equal under the law with the same rights and duties. A perfect summary of Article 3 of the treaty. So David's 3 principles just run beautifully explaining and summarising the Treaty of Waitangi accurately. So why are the activists, now church leaders included, so opposed to this bill? Answer: they believe that Maori have superior rights to all other citizens. How do they come to this idea? Well, it's not from the treaty. They say they are partners with the Crown, and being partners they should have a 50-50 say in everything that goes on in New Zealand. That is, they should co-govern New Zealand. Now, how ridiculous is that? The voting Maori population is 13% of the population, and yet they say they want 50-50. Well, how is that fair? How is that right? How is that democratic? The answer is it's not. They say they are partners, and the rest of us who are not MPs are just spectators. You know what? The British would never have set something like this up in New Zealand like this. It's just fantasy land. Why should these demands, these interpretations of the treaty be rejected? That's the question. Well, first, Sir Nata, New Zealand's greatest Maori, would reject them. Read what he said. He said this: these are but few words. He's talking about Article 1, but they indicate a complete cession. You know what? What he's saying there is Maori gave up New Zealand completely to the British. It wasn't a half pie give up, it was a complete give up. This was the transfer by the Maori chiefs to the Queen of England forever for the government of their lands. See that? The government of their lands. They gave over to the British the right to govern all of New Zealand, everything, including all the people. It is the absolute authority over Maori people which the article transmits into the hands of the Queen and Parliamentary Council. The main purport was the transferring of the authority of the Maori chiefs for making laws to their respective tribes and sub-tribes under the Treaty of Waitangi to the Queen of England forever. Now, you know what? It doesn't get any clearer than that. That is so absolutely clear. They gave up the management, the government of New Zealand to the British. Sir Nata clearly opines that Maori Maori are not partners with the Crown. There's nothing about partnership. It says in here, a complete cession. Look, that's not partnership. That's letting British rule and reign. Full stop. When you read the treaty yourself, you just cannot get anything about partnership in there. What is troubling about the 440 church leaders' letter is that they come across as knowing more about the treaty than Sir Aparananata, yet he was fluent in Maori and lived much closer to the February the 6th, 1840 event. In fact, some would posit that Sir Aparananata was actually alive when some of the chiefs who had signed the treaty on the 6th of February 1840 were alive as well. How's that? But these guys today say, oh no, we know better than that. You know what? They're just making it all up. Really, it's shameful them to disrespect Sir Aparananata in this way. They're one of their elders. A telling paper has been written by Justice Anthony Willie, explaining why the treaty is not a partnership. You should read that here. So what Justice Willie did, he's a court judge, and he went through all the papers, all the discussion that the judges had in the Lands case, which was in the 1980s, where Justice Cook said the treaty was akin to a partnership. Now, he goes through that and analyzes. It's about an 80-page document, and he gives a summary and said, you know what? None of those judges said the treaty was a partnership, but Maori activists have just jumped on the line, the one little throwaway line that was made that the treaty was akin to a partnership. They didn't say it was a partnership and it wasn't a partnership, but they've jumped on that and they've milked it to death and made it something that it's not. That's what's happened. There is a second reason why we should reject what the activists say. They say Maori are partners with the Crown, and being partners, they should have 50-50 say in everything that goes on in New Zealand. In other words, co-govern New Zealand. When Maori were granted British citizenship, they became British citizens, and when they became British citizens, they had the same rights and duties as all other British citizens. As I have said, it is impossible for a group of people in a colony to be British citizens and have superior rights over other British citizens. Come on, think about that, will you? That would be an oxymoron, a contradiction in terms. That would mean the British were going around the globe spreading a system of government which promoted apartheid and racism. The British did not do this. That is out there. That is parallel universe stuff. There is the third reason why Maori are not 50-50 partners with the Crown. When Maori ceded sovereignty, the management of all the resources of the country were transferred from the Maori to the British to be managed by the British via democratic government. Property rights, land, dwellings and property would be protected by the British. If a tribe owned land and sold all of it or part of it, the promise of protection was transferred to the new owner. That is it. Most Kiwis think, wrongly that is, that Maori can't get their hands on private property, but this is not so. Don't be fooled. Local councils in collaboration with iwi and bureaucrats can reclassify anyone's land anytime. Now, in the next video that I do, I'm going to show you how they're getting their hands on private land. So if you think your private land is safe, think again. Please, will you get our cards out to everybody everywhere? That's saying the cards are that Maori activists are taking over the country and we need to put up some resistance to stop this. So please get those cards out. If you haven't got the cards, here's the address to get them and start handing them out in your area. Okay guys, thank you for listening, and let's keep up the fight because, you know, we're on the side of truth, and in the end, truth always wins. Please share this video with everyone everywhere. The mainstream media should be reporting on the issues I am raising in these videos, but they're not. Why aren't they? Well, they're corrupt. Why are they corrupt? They are collaborating with Maori activists, there's no doubt about that. In the final analysis, the people of New Zealand, that's us, have ultimate power, not the politicians. Did you know that? The people can kick out the people in power and they can put them into power. How are we going to do that? Well, awareness is the key to change. If enough people in New Zealand become aware of the issues I am raising, we can save this beautiful country. So share these videos everywhere so that come the next election, we can vote the right people in and kick out the people who are destroying New Zealand.